It's Monday once again. First Monday of November. We are 1 month through Q4, the second best quarter along with Q2 for crypto historically. Q1 2021 being an anomaly for altcoins when things really took off. Generally for taxes and a few other reasons, seasonality tends to drop off hard for the bulls in Q1. So the time to make our moves are definitely Q4. So my expectation is always bullish Q4, bearish Q1, and then we just repeat this cycle over and over again. So that's my baseline foundation. A lot of people right now are seeing price on BTC and ETH go nowhere. They're getting anxious, confused, and I always say this, but as long as you have a plan, that's the biggest thing. Have some discipline. Sitting on your hands is a position. Doing nothing is a position. Being in a position and letting it do its thing is a position, okay? There's a time to take risk and there's a time not to take risk, and we can look at metrics to decide when that is or will be. We can look at things like funding, like open interest, like TVL, like lending rates, circulating stablecoins. We can look at all that. We can be concerned at the levels they're at, but we can also understand that with each all-time high in each cycle, we typically see OI expansion. We typically see expansion of everything, right? I think a lot of people are looking for things to get worried about as BTC and ETH do nothing. To me, the most worrisome thing are things like Shiba Inu mooning, ETH fees, collapsing the network, stuff like that. That is, to me, the biggest issue for ETH, for BTC and ETH liquidity-wise. We still have 40 more Bitcoin ETFs potentially getting approved. Not that any one of them individually is going to move the needle, but there eventually is going to be a tipping point where it's going to be enough to finally get us some volume into all-time highs. That isn't the only thing that can get us there. I think technicals alone are enough to get us there. And we'll take a look at that at the end. But for me, the risk on time is when we're doing nothing. For a lot of people, they get concerned because they're over trading. Price isn't doing anything. They're looking at this thing. They're looking at this thing. They see somebody's tweet. Just relax. Everything's going to be fine. I think even if I'm wrong about being risk on, it's still, for me, in my trading style, the right time to be risk on. Let's start with the Bitcoin open interest. And anything volume related is always a tough sell for me because I don't trust anybody. I don't trust US markets, stock markets, let alone Chinese markets, let alone markets on Binance. I trust none of it, okay? You can trust any of these to varying degrees. Kraken and Coinbase are probably the highest degree of trust, but that's irrelevant. I trust Huobi the least. Binance, get them out of here. I don't trust that for a second as far as volume and OI is concerned. FTX I can trust. OKEx, get out of here. See you later. DYDX is on chain, so you can probably trust that because it actually costs something to put up that volume. BitGet, never heard of it. Get out of here. So you can go down this list and see who you like, see who you don't. That's up to you. BitMEX you can barely trust ish as well, but they're kind of a non-factor now. So collectively, yeah, OI is at an all-time high, depending on who you want to kick out of the bucket here. Do I think that's bearish? No, I don't think that's bearish at all. I think it's great. You don't want OI at all-time lows when we're at all-time highs, right? You expect OI to pick up. You expect people to leverage up to a certain degree. And you can look at funding to see whether or not that's over-leveraged or not. We can look at OI to see if we're over-leveraged or not. You could argue we're ripe for a long squeeze, okay? You could argue that. I'd say, sure, but I'm not going to close a long margin. I'm not going to close a spot position. I'm not going to open a short. I'm not going to hold on to cash for a dip even. I'm not going to do any of that. Even if this goes 5% against me, okay. Like my position for the quarter is still bullish. That's not to say you can't get a better entry on a dip buy. That's not to say being in cash is wrong. You do whatever you want to do, but I'm just saying a lot of people are looking at some of these things, I think, and thinking, oh, yeah, this is it. This is the top. We're not doing anything. This is problematic. I think we're still a ways away from that. ETH looks probably worse to some people OI wise because it is at all-time highs. But again, if you take out some of these that I don't trust, that's just me, right? Maybe you trust OKEx. I don't know. It starts to look a bit more real to me OI wise if you take out some of these. But even looking at that, you're at all-time highs, So for some people, which is fine to get concerned about this, I'm not saying they're wrong. It's important to look at this stuff. But for some people, to them, that's a no-go, right? They don't want to see price going nowhere with OI at all-time highs, because to them that means that everybody who wanted to get in is already in. It's a long trade, is a crowded trade, right, for a long squeeze, whatever. For me, it's fine, right? I don't care personally. Some people will look at these funding rates and say they're too high. Other people would say we've been this high or higher for weeks at a time. I don't know. It's up to you, right? What kind of risk are you willing to take here? What is your drawdown? What is your margin call if you're long, if you're on a leverage long, right? These are all questions you have to ask when we're doing a bunch of nothing, and scenarios start going through people's minds as far as what could happen or should happen on price. Another way to look at the funding rates is to look at historically what's happened. This is from Glassnode, so just subscribe to their newsletter. It's amazing. They didn't pay me to say that. If there's one newsletter I read religiously every week, it's theirs, Glassnode. So what they're showing here is average funding rates, where they've been historically based on their calculations. That's another thing you have to sort of pay attention to. Data is sensitive in crypto. Some people exclude or include certain things. But anyway, what they're showing here is a general deleveraging since October 20th, as funding rates haven't spiked or held that high. Now, if we look at Bybit or BYBT right now, funding rates at looks like an average around 05-ish, 045, whatever the average of that is. So depending on the data, again, I'd have to see what Glassnode says here today right now, but that's still quite high even for this chart. This is generally how it works. People get over leveraged, things go sideways or down, they get margin called, and you just repeat the cycle over and over and over again until eventually it reaches a tipping point where funding is so high, long squeeze potential is so high, that you just rip down and you get a bunch of people who are late longers, all margin called. Thanks for playing the game. See you later. They're gone. Volatility is great for trading. It's horrible for people who are new. Let's be honest. They will always buy the top. They will always sell the bottom. They do not know what they are doing. And you see that on charts like this, right? Prices go up, people buy. That's just how people work. We can also look at liquidations along with funding, right? This is another reason why you get tops and bottoms, because people get force capitulated. They get liquidated, right? They see you later. Again, thanks for playing. They get liquidated. So what you don't want to see is funding get insane, OI getting insane, and just this massive setup for a long squeeze. I don't think we're there yet. I really don't. But I don't think prices have done enough, high enough, to warrant a massive reversal rollover. Can we get many long squeezes like we have? Absolutely. I just don't think it's the top. And again, we can look at TVL all-time highs. TVL is a bit problematic because ultimately it doesn't move the needle for most coins underlying. Curve looks really good. It's all-time high TVL, or at least amongst everything on all chains. To me, Curve technicals look good. Just so happens that Curve's TVL looks amazing, right? Maker's technicals look awful to me. Maybe the worst among any DeFi coin I've looked at lately. But their TVL is at 18 billion, right? And you never know. So my argument there is that TVL is largely meaningless, but for speculation purposes on the conversation of funding rates and whatever else, it's important to just see, yeah, we're getting up there. If this thing gets to 300 billion, 500 billion, right? What's the top? A lot of this is just appreciation of the underlying tokens and coins. But we can also look at things like WBTC, and we can see what the supply is there. And we can also look at stablecoin supply, which is ballooning. We'll look at that too. That plays a role here as well. Along with funding rates on centralized exchanges, we can also look at funding rates on stablecoins. This is Loan Scan. We can look at historic rates, what it looked like in March, April, what it looks like now. It looks tame now compared to what it was then across the lending platforms. DAI, same thing. ETH, generally the same thing. WBTC has a bit of a base here on compound, but there really isn't anything to me that looks egregious, right? To you, it might look overbought or whatever, but to me, everything is fine. Until we see multiple days of crazy funding for USDC, for example, I'm not worried about it, because they will just keep printing. The legacy people will keep printing USDC and just sending it to these platforms until that tipping point hits where there are just so many more people wanting to borrow than wanting to lend. These rates should stay relatively tame. and calm. Compound currently 9%, which is crazy high especially when you look at that at any staking coins. Like you're not going to get 9% on virtually anything. You're so much better off just lending USDC. Now this isn't a stable APY. This isn't going to be forever, but in the meantime, you're much better off there. This is circulating supply of the big stable coins. I guess I can add Binance as well. Why not? And we're well over 100 billion. We're 120 million, 120 billion and rising. In January, we were around 20 to 40 billion, and we're at 120 billion. So of course, OIs are going to explode. Stablecoin, everything's exploding. Anything that's touching stablecoins is exploding because stablecoins are exploding. So that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, it's not like people are just leveraging up like mad here. Glassnode's had another chart showing leverage margin stuff for BTC now compared to the previous high, and it's 20% lower as a function of OI than it is now. Here's supply of WBTC. It is absolutely mooning. This just gets sent to other ETH products, DeFi products, anything that can trade WBTC. So yeah, TVL is going to go up. You're injecting more capital into the system. We're not seeing TVL rise alone without stablecoins and WBTC increasing, stuff like that. This isn't even me convincing myself of my position. This is I'm just looking at the charts, right? I'm just looking at the data. To me, it makes perfect sense where we're at. The biggest issue here is, I don't even have it on the chart, but the volume for Bitcoin needs to do something. We need to start moving sooner or later. This shouldn't take a month to resolve. This should take 1 or 2 weeks, I think. Ultimately, if this behaves how it should with volume picking up, and we're just measuring this high, this low, we get a fib, like completely basic stuff. I like 83 to 95 as far as the zone. And if we get even close to 96, we're going to 100 because that's how people think. They're expecting that level. This won't be a one-shot sort of deal, but this is the next area I'm watching sensitively. If I'm mega wrong and we get some crazy down stuff, I like bids at 53. That's where the daily cloud Kijun is. This is, if you don't know about the cloud, in the colors here, the background, it's constantly painting dynamic support resistance. That's how I read it. A lot of people don't agree with that, but hey, it's worked for me. So dynamic support resist, this is the level to watch on any pullbacks. VPVR likes 56. This color here, this is volume at price, 56, 47. If we get below 30, it's good night. But I doubt we see anything below 50 before January. The trend is up. We've consolidated for 6 to 8 months. We've normalized 30 to 60K. I'm completely fine with mooning from here. It'd be one thing if we consolidated for a couple weeks and everybody was bullish again. No. We consolidated from March to October. Okay. Like, what else do you want, people? How much more consolidation do you want? Do you really want a bear market after a 6-month consolidation? I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, right? If the data presents itself to suggest a bear market, I'm right there with you, but we're just not there yet, even for a pullback. One thing I am slightly concerned about, if we close this week a doji, what you don't want is 3 dojis in a row. And you could argue with me that, yeah, this isn't a TriStar top because it didn't go low, high, low. That's fine, but I don't want to get into the position where I'm even thinking about interpreting this as a reversal potential, right? I want moon this week. I want a new all-time high this week in order to be convinced that we're okay, right? We want 70 plus, right? Whatever that is, whatever this wick is. You want to cancel out any shenanigans that are building here. ETH to me looks fine. ETH looks mega uber turbo bullish to me. We're just chilling at all-time highs, but again, you need volume. You need something here. We need SHIB to calm down, not only for ETH fees, but for general attention. Liquidity just gets sucked out of the room if something's going up 700% in a month. And ETH, the chain, is facilitating that and is taking the brunt of that fee-wise. But for ETH, I still like 5 to 6K in the near term. That could happen within 2 weeks, I think. I think this thing is just ready to rip. It just needs the volume. Ultimately, this cycle, I like some crazy target like 11K based on the 1-year MA multiplier. And if I'm wrong on ETH this week, I like 35, 36 based on the daily Kijun. On the cloud, trend-wise, this looks phenomenal. You had your TK cross recross. You had your cup and handle. You know, what else do you want for the people that are bearish? I just don't know what to tell you. ETH BTC is even starting to look better and better. It's morphed from an Adam and Eve inverted to a potential mess of an inverted head and shoulders. You know, you can kind of see it shoulder, head, shoulder, but ultimately it's just kind of a vanilla consolidation range that if it breaks 0.78, it's probably going to go to 0.1. That's where a lot of the ETH maxis are going to celebrate. As good as ETH BTC looks, I think Sol ETH also looks incredible, even though it's up whatever percentage it's up since the beginning of the year. If this thing consolidates bullish or finishes its consolidation up here and resolves bullish, I think ETH is in trouble this cycle against Solana. You know, all of these are going to do well, but if you're trying to min-max your rotations and you can stomach trading Solana, then yeah, it looks great against ETH. It probably looks great against BTC as well. But on trend, this will probably get a TK cross recross with price above cloud, the single most bullish signal in the cloud system. So that looks good to me. I don't know where this goes from here. You'd have to measure it out, but it does look really good. Dominance, speaking of alts, dominance got smacked down at the 200-day moving average. Not something you want to see if you are a Bitcoin person. But alts are starting to look better. It's hard to deny that, especially with this SHIB nonsense going on. So I would like dominance to go to 60%. That's where I want to see it to be happy. Basically this trend line or whatever. But it's still not even above the 200-day moving average. DeFi perp looking phenomenal to me. The best it's looked since November 2020. It is above the cloud with a bullish TK cross. It is above all the volume resistance. It is above the 200-day moving average. It is above the previous range consolidation. The next step is just getting above previous all-time highs, honestly. And right now it's got an active cup and handle chart pattern resolution. And again, you'd have to measure that out, but I like all-time highs for this, right? Like if it's gonna go, it's gonna go, and it's gonna go higher. All there is to it, really. Trend-wise looks great. Dot even looks great to me. Again, there's a lot of these charts that look cup and handly, where you can see this scoop, double scoop thing breaking up now. This is all-time highs for Dot. I like 70 to 85 within the next 2 weeks. You know, you can say what you want about parachains, this, that, and the other thing. I think most of these chains are trash, including Solana. I could care less, honestly, because the fundamentals for me just aren't there. But technicals, yeah, you know, I'll trade this all day to those levels. So this looks good for more, and Curve as well looks phenomenal to me. I mentioned that in the opening, but price-wise, on the USD chart, on the BTC chart, Curve looks really good. I don't have any Curve currently, but dip buys I like 3.7 and 3.10, 3.8, 3.08, 3.10 based on volume down here. But I like 10 to 20 potentially for Curve. You know, if the TVL ever kicks in to matter for the price, wow, that thing could really move because it has a ton of TVL and it just hasn't really done anything. So let me know if I'm completely off base in the comments. If you think I should be bearish here, I don't see reasons to be bearish. Even reversally, I see nothing. Lastly, let me just mention the ETH BTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for Tech Me Capital Enzyme Financing, non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send Ether USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance, allocation, all of the vaults I'm in here on UniComp and Aave, as well as the trades in the trades tab down below. And you'll notice on this, I've done nothing for a week, okay? What is there to do? You buy, you hold, you sell at some cycle high. Yes, 1 inch was up crazy percentages. The other day, I could have rotated out of that a little bit, but if I think it's going higher, you know, I'm just going to stay in there. The other thing with Enzyme, I can't set limit orders. You know, if I could have set a limit order for 1 inch, I would have, but I couldn't have. I can't do that. We did post our highest month percentage last month for both of these. Not hard to do considering how well everything else did, but there's something to be said about, you know, celebrating the small victories here. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.